Yada Yahuwah. Yada Yahuwah.
This Yom, we're looking at Yom Tharuah, the day of shouting, blasting, sounding, alarm, clamoring, all about sound coming out. So the only direct commands for Yom Tharuah appear in two primary places. It appears in Uikara 23, verse 23 to 25, and it appears in Bamadabar, which is Numbers 29, verse 1 to 6. We're going to ask someone to read it for us.
Uikara 23, 23 to 25. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, In the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, you shall have a Shabbat, a memorial, remembrance of Tharuah, Zaqan Tharuah, a dedicated convocation. You shall do no servile work, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And Bamadabar, I'm sorry, Salaki, I thought that was the whole verse right there. Let me go to the page. Bamadabar 29, 1 through 6. And in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, you have a Kodash gathering. You do no servile work. It is a Yom Torah for you. And you shall prepare a burnt offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 parts for the bull, 2/10 part for the ram, and 1/10 part for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 male goat as a sin offering, and to make atonement for you. Besides the burnt offering with its grain offering for the new moon, the continual burnt offering with its grain offering, and their drink offerings, according to their right ruling, as a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah.
So for reading. All right. So we see in verse 6 they mention new moon, which is actually the head of month. All right. So the essence of Tharuah, and we're looking at the Hebrew root ruah, carries several layers. So we see where it is shouting, crying aloud, raising a sound. So we're going to reference this from Yashayahu, Yahusha ben Nun, or Joshua 6, verse 5, where we see clearly in this verse, there's going to be the shout that took down the wall of Jericho. a year ago. All right, so I'm going to ask someone to read for us. Yahusha ben Nun, chapter 6, verse 5.
And it shall be, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the horn, that all the people shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him.
Right, turn off for reading. So we know how powerful that shout is, because based on the chapter itself, and we see where in the chapter how tall the wall is, how mighty they say the wall is, and to actually shout and to tear that down, that show the force and the might that Yahuwah hands was in that, why that wall could have fallen. All right. So looking at alarm, battle cry, or trumpet blast. So we're gonna take a look at Bamadabar, or Numbers 10, verse 9. Gonna ask someone to read that for us. We talk about the silver trumpet sounding war alarm.
Bamadabar 10 and 9. And when you go into battle in your land against the enemy that distresses you, then you shall shout with the trumpets, and you shall be remembered before Yahweh your Eluah, and you shall be saved from your enemies.
All right, so for reading. So just a reminder, we're looking at the root, Ruah, all right? So a joyful shout or acclamation. We're looking at for this Tahal, or Psalm 47, verse 1. Gonna ask someone to read it for us.
Oh, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to Elohim with a voice of singing.
All right. So we see in different scripture, different books, different chapter, where we see the root word ruah means different things. We see where it's talking about shouting, crying aloud, where it's talking about alarm, battle cry, and also a joyful shout. All right. So once you know that the Tharuah is not limited to a mechanical shofar blast, but encompasses alarm, awakening, warning, celebration, rejoicing, proclamation, and also a sound that pierces silence and stirring awareness. So the yam is not primarily about ritualistic horn blowing, but about a memorial of shouting or blasting, a wake-up proclamation woven into Israel covenantal rhythm. So we're going to take a look at the memorial aspect, or the Zaqan Tharuah. So the word Zaqan means memorial, to remember or remembrance, record, or memorial sign. So what exactly are we remembering? What exactly are we remembering? Can we see where Yom Torah is a remembrance through sound? So what exactly are we remembering? You see, the covenant voice at Mount Sinai. But we see Israel heard the kahal or the sound of shofar and the trembling ensued. We're going to take a look at Shamut 19, verse 16 to 19. The next one to read it for us.
And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud in the mountain. And the sound of the ram's horn was very loud, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Eluah, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. At Mount Sinai, and Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire. And in smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when the blast of the ram's horn sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Eluah answered him by voice.
All right, to the. So we see that the Tharuah recalls that moment when Yahuwah's voice entered history. So the sovereignty of Yahuwah. That's what we're going to look at. And we're going to look at Tahal 47, verse 5 to 9.
Elohim shall go up with a shout, Yahuwah with the sound of a ram's horn. Sing praises to Elohim, sing praises. Sing praises to our sovereign, sing praises. For Elohim is sovereign over all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. Elohim shall reign over the nations. Elohim shall sit on his Kadosh throne. Nobles of people shall gather together, the people of the Elohim of Abraham, for the shields of the earth belong to Elohim. He shall be greatly exalted.
All right, so for reading. So we see the shout and the trumpet blast that announce the enthronement of the sovereignty over all nations. So the coming right ruling and the gathering. We're going to look at ShamarYahu or Zephaniah 1, verse 14 to 16. And then I'm going to ask someone to get Joel 2, or you all 2, verse 1.
ShamarYahu 1, 14 to 16. Near is the great day of Yahweh, near and hurrying greatly, the noise of the day of Yahweh. Let the mighty man then bitterly cry out. That day is a day of wrath, a day of distress and trouble, a day of waste and ruin, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds, dense clouds, a day of ram's horn and alarm, against the walled cities and against the cornered towers.
All right, to the reading, and Joel 2, verse 1.
Blow a ram's horn in Zion, and sound an alarm in my Kadosh mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahuwah is coming, for it is near.
All right. So we see the Yom of Yahuwah associated with alarm blasts, awakening people to divine intervention. So again, these different scripture highlights the different sound, what they represent. We see where on Mount Sinai, the covenant voice, and then in Tahal, we see where it's the announcement of the entrapment of the sovereignty over all nation. Enthronement. And also we see where in both Zephaniah and Joel, we see where the sound is associated with the alarm blast and awakening people to divine intervention. So Yom Teruah is both a memorial of past voice, like what's happening in Mount Sinai, and also a proclamation of future voice, like the day of right ruling or gathering. So Tharuah as covenant alarm. So we see that the Torah establishes the silver trumpet's purposes. We're going to take a look at Bamada Bar, or Numbers 10, verse 1 to 10. I'm going to ask someone to read that for us.
Verses 1 to 10.
Verse 1 to 10.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Make 2 silver trumpets for yourself, and make them of beaten work, and you shall use them for calling the congregation and for breaking camp. And when they blow both of them, all the congregation shall meet before you at the door of the tent of appointment. And if they blow one, then the leaders, the heads of the thousands of Yisrael, shall gather to you. And when you blow a shout, the camps that lie on the east side shall depart. And when you blow a shout the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall depart. They blow a shout for them to depart. And when the assembly is to be assembled, you blow, but do not shout. And the sons of Aharon, the Kohanim, blow with the trumpets, and it shall be to you for a law forever throughout your generations. And when you go into battle in your land against the enemy that distresses you, then you shall shout with the trumpets, and you shall be remembered before Yahuwah your Eluah, and you shall be saved from your enemies. And in the day of your gladness, and in your appointed times, and at the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over your peace offerings, and they shall be a remembrance for you before your Elohim. And Yahuwah, I am Yahuwah, your Eluah.
All right. To the reading. So we realize that there are different purposes here. So one of the purpose is calling assemblies. Another one is going out in journeys. And we see where it's mentioned about sounding the alarm in time of war. And also it's the days of gladness and feast. So Yom Teruah fits as a convocation alarm, gathering the people to honor Yahuwah. It also fits a war alarm, preparing for a spiritual battle, warning of Yahuwah's approach. And also it fits a joy shout, rejoicing before Yahuwah. So it is not a monotone. It is a multifaceted alarm plus joy plus covenant assembly. Yada Yahuwah. So we're going to take a look at the contrast. So not Rosh Hashanah. You see, Torah never calls this the end of the year. We see that innovation shifts focus away from Yahuwah's design. So scripturally, here begins in Abib. And we can take a look at Shamut, or Exodus 12, verse 2, where it mentioned Abib is the start of the month for us. Start of the year for us. So I'm going to ask someone to read it for us.
This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you.
All right, so it clearly said Abib is the start of the month for you or for us. Now, the 7th month is about fullness, harvest, right, ruling, and sovereignty. Sovereignty, not beginnings. So not exclusively festival of trumpets. So while so far may be implied, the word is Tharuah, which means sound or shout, or broader and deeper. So not introspection, yum only, while later tradition tied to judgment, scripture doesn't say it is a yum of personal searching of the being. Instead, it is a communal alarm and proclamation of Yahuwah's sovereignty. We're going to take a look at the day of Yahuwah imagery. And we see where the Nabi ties Tharuah to the yum of alarm. And we're going to read Zephaniah and you all 2, verse 1, and we're going to read Zephaniah 1, verse 14 to 16.
14 to 16.
Fine.
Near is the great day of Yahuwah, near and hurrying greatly, the noise of the day of Yahuwah. Let the mighty man then bitterly cry out. That day is a day of wrath, a day of distress and trouble, a day of waste and ruin, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds, dense clouds, a day of ram's horn and alarm, against the walled cities and against the cornered towers.
All right. So the for reading, Joel 2, Joel 2, verse 1.
Blow a ram's horn in Zion, and sound an alarm in my Kodash mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahuwah is coming, for it is near.
It is near. So the for reading. So we see clearly from these both chapters that it is an eschatological wake-up call for Israel and nation. So looking at the enthronement of the sovereign, and we're going to look at 2 chapters from Tahal or Psalms. We're looking at Tahal 98 verse 6 and also 47 verse 5. Gonna ask you to read it for us.
98 and 6.
Khan.
With trumpets and the sound of a ram's horn, raise a shout before Yahuwah, the sovereign.
All right, to the for reading. And chapter 47, verse 5.
Elohim shall go up with a shout, Yahuwah with the sound of a ram's horn.
All right. So we see both scripture using the shofar and a shouting when Yahuwah reigns. We see that happening in both scripture here. So we see clearly Yom Torah anticipates the day or the Yom Yahuwah arises to judge and rule. So looking at the awakening, and we're going to ask someone to read Yeshayahu or Isaiah 27, verse 13.
27 and 13.
And
And in that day it shall be that a great horn is blown, and those who are perishing in the land of Ashur and the outcast in the land of Matzraim shall come and shall worship Yahuwah on the Qadash mountain in Yerushalayim.
All right. So for reading. So as was mentioned earlier, where we see what the sun represent about the gathering, bringing people together. We see here clearly where he speaks of a great shofar gathering the exile back together. So we're gonna ask someone again to read for us Isaiah, Usha 8, verse 1.
Put the ram's horn to your mouth, like an eagle against the house of Yahuwah, because they have transgressed my covenant, and they have rebelled against my Torah.
All right. So again, as was mentioned earlier, the sound representing right ruling, signals of both right rulings and restoration. In this chapter, we see it again clearly standing out, where the places suffer at the covenant violation, where sound signal both right ruling and restoration. So again, we see here sound representing different things. So looking at wakefulness. So Tharuah disrupts complacency. The Yom trains Israel to be spiritual alert, listening for Yahuwah's voice. Also, as remembrance, to remember is to re-enter covenant memory, such as Mount Sinai, deliverance, his voice. It is a covenantal rehearsal. So you have to constantly remember these songs. And lastly is the proclamation. Israel is not silent before a nation. It proclaims Yahuwah's reign. Tharuah is public witness. So I want to begin this section by stating we usually believe that all 7 appointed times were referred to as feasts. However, what we have noticed during our studies, as we learn more about the Abrit words and context, as well as the fact that what we are to eat is not stated in all 7. For all example, Yom Kippur. So we started to dig a little bit deeper about it. And what we have concluded is that all 7 are appointed times, are Muadim, but not all 7 are feasts. All right. So as we go through, I will explain. So all 7 are appointed times, but not all 7 are feasts. So is this a feast? So some call all the appointed times feasts. But what does Torah actually calls Tharuah? So we see in Uikar or Leviticus 23, where we see it mentioned appointed time, and where it introduced it as these are the appointed times or the appointed Muadim of Yahuwah. A Kadash convocation which you shall proclaim in their appointed time. So if we look closely in this chapter, we call Leviticus 23, we see clearly where Yom Tharuah is actually called a appointed time or times and not a feast. So we're going to ask someone to read for us Uikara 23, verse 23 to 25.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, In the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you have a rest, a remembrance, a blowing of trumpets, a Kodash gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, only 25.
25, yeah. All right. To the for reading. So we're going to take a look at some at the keywords here. So the Arabic word is Muad, which clearly means appointed time, established meeting, or fixed appointment. Another keyword that we want to look at is feast, or you might see, or the Arabic word Akhad, which means feast or festival, which is used for pilgrimage feasts, such as the unleavened bread, the Shabbat, or Feast of Weeks, and Sukkot, and also the Passover. So we see clearly that Yom Tov is a appointed time or a Muad, but not technically a pilgrimage feast. So does the distinction matter? Yes, it does. Torah never commands a journey to Jerusalem for Yom Tharuah, unlike the other 3 feasts that was mentioned in Shamut 23, verse 14 to 17. Then I ask someone to read it for us.
3 times in a year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Guard the festival of Mashtoth. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you shall come out of Matzarim and do not appear before me empty-handed. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year, all you males are to appear before the Adon Yahuwah.
All right. So we see where it mentions 3 times for the year that the men should go before Yahuwah for these particular feasts, which are the Passover, unleavened bread, Shabbat or Feast of Weeks, and Sukkot or Feast of Tabernacle. So functionally, what is it? It is a Shabbat rest according to Uikara, Leviticus 23, verse 27. Verse 24, it is a Kadash convocation. So it's a time for assembly to worship or for worship. It is a Zakarun Tharuah or memorial of blasting or shouting. And it's definitely a time to present offering. So we're going to take a look at Bamada Bar 29, verse 1 to 6.
'29, 1 to 6. And in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, you have a Kodash gathering. You do no servile work. It is Yom Torah for you. And you shall prepare a burnt offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 parts for the bull, 2/10 parts for the ram, and 1/10 part for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Besides the burnt offering with its grain offering for the new moon, the continual burnt offering with its grain offering, and their drink offerings according to their right ruling, as a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah.
All right. Total for reading. So there's nowhere in the text does it require us to go to or require a pilgrimage or large-scale feasting. We see that is not commanded, but some do choose to observe with a meal following the convocation. So why does it always get called a feast? You see what happened over time? All Muadim came to be lumped under the English label Feast of Yahuwah. But this is imprecise. Some are feasts are kagim with eating, celebration, and pilgrimage. Others are solemn convocation with rest and remembrance, just like Yom Tharuah and Yom Kippur. So what is the Hebrew truth? Yes, it is one of Yahuwah's appointed times, or more. No, it is not a feast in the technical sense. So, better phrasing, Yom Tov is a dedicated appointment of Yahuwah, a Kadash convocation or assembly marked by the sound of Tharuah, memorial, and rest. So we're going to take a look at the covenantal flow of the 7th month. So the 7th month contains 3 appointments. The one that is coming up shortly, Yom Tharuah, the opening blast, calling attention. The second one that is celebrated in the 7th month, Yom Kippur, atonement or affliction. This is a inner purification, right ruling and covering. And Sukkot, the dwelling, joy or assembly, the final ingathering and rest. So is this structure deliberate? Yes, it is. It is deliberate. You see, first comes awakening, which is Yom Tharuah. Then comes the reckoning and cleansing, Yom Kippur. And then comes dwelling and rejoicing, Sukkot. So clearly, Yom Torah is the threshold sound that moves Israel from the cycles of daily life into the final climatic movement of the year. So we're going to look at the creation connection. So 7th month means fullness, completion. The number 7 saturates Torah with themes of rest and wholeness. So Yom Tharuah marks the first Yom of the 7th month, beginning of completion. So even as Abi 1 began the cycle of redemption that we read earlier in Shamuta Exodus 12 verse 2, we see where the 7th month, Yom 1, begins the cycle of right ruling, or what some may know as judgment and dwelling. So Tharuah and sovereignty. So in ancient Israel, we see where they were having coronations and enthronements were marked by blasts and shouts. We're going to take a look at 1st Malachi, or 1st Kings 1, verse 39 to 40. I'm going to ask someone to read that for us.
39 to 40. And Sadak, the Kohen, took a horn of oil from the tent and appointed Shalom, and they blew the horn, and all the people said, "Let sovereign Shalom live." And all the people came up after him, and the people played the flutes and rejoiced with great joy, so that the earth was split by their noise.
What a great joy that was, that the earth was split by the noise. Wow. That was a great shouting, man. Great shouting. Wow, wow, wow. So we see clearly that Solomon's or Shalom coronation accompanied by shofar and great shouting. So we're going to ask someone to read for us Tahal, or Psalm 47, verse 5 to 9.
Elohim should go up with a shout, Yahuwah with the shout of a ram's horn. Sing praises to Elohim, sing praises. Sing praises to our sovereign, sing praises. For Elohim is sovereign of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. Elohim shall reign over the nations. Elohim shall sit on his Kadash throne. Nobles of the peoples, shall be gathered together, the people of Elohim of Abraham, for the shields of the earth belong to Elohim. He shall be greatly exalted.
All right, to for reading. So we see here Yahuwah goes up with the sound of Tharuah. He's definitely and will always be the sovereign over all the Arats. So Yom Tharuah is not simple random shouting. It is the announcement of sovereign's reign. It is a covenantal proclamation that Yahuwah is sovereign and rules over all, over every single nation. So in closing, my sparkle, Yom Tov is not about food or travel. It is about hearing. To keep Yom Tharuah is to stop, assembly, rest, and let the sound of Tharuah cut through your silence. It is a yom to rehearse for the ultimate yom when Yahuwah's voice will shatter every rain. Gather is scattered and enthrone himself in Zion or Sion. He teaches vigilance, expectation, and bold proclamation. So, no one, it is not merely a feast. It is a dedicated interruption in time. A blast that says, wake up, the sovereign is coming. Wake up, the sovereign is coming. Wake up, the sovereign is coming. Yada Yahuwah, my sparker.
Yada Yahuwah.
We are the Nazarene of Yahuwah.
And of course, we say Akhad,
Ahabah,
which means
one love.
And we thank all our viewers and subscribers, all the family of the Most High, for viewing today's presentation. So remember to smash that like button
Subscribe to the channel
and hit that notification bell so that you may be alerted every time we upload.